Hey everybody, welcome to another live stream Q&A. Hey, I hope you're fine. Hope the heat is not as terrible as it is in Germany today. It's just absolutely insane. I even don't know, but we probably have over 30 degrees here. And I'm sweating again in the studio here. It's absolutely horrible. As you might know, I'm working in the attic, so here is really... it is absolutely terrible. But anyways, I thought I'm just gonna do this live stream today, and we have to talk about a couple of interesting things in regards to my last video on Wazuh, which is the open source security platform I just reviewed or made a tutorial about. So I hope you're ready for it, and hope you have some questions for me that we're gonna discuss. Otherwise, I will just talk about my experience so far, and yeah, some stuff that I have been working on since making this video. Hey, moin moin, Christoph. It's great to see you. Good that you're there, and yeah. So let's start. I've been using Wazuh for the past year. Oh, amazing, nice. Yeah, probably you can tell me much more about this application than I can, but yeah. Anyways, I mean, you probably can help out with some questions in the stream then. Yeah, honestly, I haven't really touched on all of the parts of this application because, as I said in the video, Wazuh is a huge platform. It is really crazy how many capabilities this has, and it's also like one of those first steps that I'm doing into this type of security business, because as you might know, I'm working in the cybersecurity field for some years, but mainly not in the technical position or in the security analysis department. So my main job was customer support when it comes to network security, so firewalls and stuff. But as I'm slowly making the progression in my main job to deal more with endpoint, like anti-malware, AI-based technology, sandboxing and stuff, I thought it's going to be a great overlap between what I have to do and what I have to learn for my main job. And while in my HomeLab, experimenting with Wazuh, experimenting with XDR and CM, and yeah, that's kind of pretty interesting field to get into. However, I'm also aware for HomeLab, this is sometimes a bit of overkill. I think like some people commented in the last video as well, this is really maybe a bit too much for HomeLab. So some of those sections in the application you don't really need in HomeLab. And yes, that's right. But we might have the time to go into some detail about this platform. Just want to, yeah, say hello to some other people here. Mason, hey, it's good to see you. But a long time no speak, man. So it's great that you jump in again. So what has been going on your side? Hello, anti-user. Nice name, by the way. Ketus Nunvili. Oh, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Hey. And yeah, Daryl Mustafa Kamal. Hi from Bangladesh. Hey, cool, Alex. Guten Morgen from USA. Guten Morgen. From Shanghai. Oh, nice. Really cool. It's one of the best tools out there for sure. It's helping me with patching it logs. Yeah, Wazuh is really an amazing platform. Alex also said, like, I first heard about Wazuh from Network Chuck. I plan on spinning on a Docker container soon. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, I also watched his video on Wazuh, and yeah, that was also kind of interesting to take a look at. But of course, like with most of the other tutorials that you find online for those type of applications, I like to give it my own spin when I make a video like this. First and foremost, doing a proper deployment, right? So not use any self-signed TLS certificates and any, I don't know, yeah, it's like weird cloud deployments and stuff. I'm a HomeLab guy, so I just like to deploy it myself and go through the installation process, set it up on Docker, issue trusted TLS certificates, make sure it's going to be somewhat ready for a proper testing environment and so on. And that's why I thought, yeah, it's going to be a good chance for me to go in a bit more detail into the installation part. However, I also knew that the other parts of this application will be a bit like short, or a bit shorter, or more like scratch the surface, so to speak. So I definitely have to spend some more weeks going into the different sections of the app and also explore what the different capabilities are, because honestly, Wazuh is an amazing platform, but at the same time, I don't think if you configure it properly, it doesn't actually do that much for you. So you have to work with this platform on a regular cadence. Otherwise, you just leave it somewhere, but it doesn't actually help you to protect out of the box. And that's why I think we have to spend many, many more weeks instead of just showing how to set up the tool and play around with a few buttons in the graphical user interface. I think it is much more important to spend some time, dive into the individual sections of this application and make some follow-up videos on this. And this is probably becoming a new tool of my HomeLab where I probably need to play around with for a much longer time to get really to understand how to make the best use of this application. Anyway, I just want to show you and share my screen. First and foremost, I am so sorry. I have to excuse for not enabling the dark mode in the tutorial video. I don't know what happened with me. Probably I was just overwhelmed by all of the different menu points and whatsoever. And I really didn't pay attention to how to enable the dark mode in Wazuh. So yeah, I'm so sorry. I completely messed up, and maybe I need to make an update video, or maybe an excuse in the next follow-up video on Wazuh explaining how to do that as well. I mean, it's like, I don't know what happened. So maybe my brain was like damaged or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, I found how to do this. I think one guy in the comments said, "Hey, you didn't enable dark mode," and I was, oh my god, it has a dark mode, really? Oh my god, I didn't pay attention to it. I was so overwhelmed by all of the other functions that I didn't pay attention to it. And yeah, I don't know. But anyways, so here's my official excuse, and I won't make this mistake again. I'm sorry. And yeah, next time you gotta see a dark mode interface for any other application that I will cover in the future. Hopefully. If not, you can remind me. Mason, you say, I'm back. I was off for a while, finally starting getting back into computer stuff, and I need to catch up on all your videos. Oh, you have a lot of stuff to do, man. So I made a bunch of videos during that time. But hey, anyway, so you can take your time, go through it, and hopefully it's gonna be helpful for you. I think Wazuh is very good for HomeLab since not a lot of people have proper network stack and security best practice in check. Yeah, that's right. So it's definitely, I see this more not like an out-of-the-box protection tool. This is not what it is, right? It is more an experimental stuff. I mean, it obviously is helping a lot with security, but only if you use it correctly, only if you make use of it. It's similar to a network firewall, right? So I always tell the customers, so hey, you cannot just buy a network security firewall and then just assume you're now secured, right? So you have to configure this properly. And also, if you're going to change a bunch of things in your environment, you have to always audit these changes and make sure that the security is part of the deployment process of any other infrastructure. The same is with Wazuh. So if you deploy Wazuh and you set up a new virtual device, you got to make sure that you install the Wazuh agent on that server immediately. So make it part of your regular deployment process. Otherwise, you're not going to make the best use of this application, and you might just deploy it somewhere, leave it around, and you're not going to notice if there is any change or if there is an alert happening. So there are a few things that you need to make sure you follow up on once you deploy this application. Yeah, so that's my opinion about this, but it is absolutely an amazing tool. I know we at Sophos, we have an XDR, we even have an MDR platform, which is part of, like, you can call it like an XDR, but it is managed. So instead of like in Wazuh, you would have to check all the alerts, you would have to integrate in anti-malware stuff and so on. On a managed security platform, this is going to be done automatically for you, so you don't have to deal with a platform like this. But on the other hand, you have to pay for it, right? And since Wazuh is open source and you can use it completely for free, this is an amazing tool, but it comes with that responsibility so that you have to be the security analyst. You cannot just deploy that tool and assume it's going to do all the work for you. You have to work with this tool just like a security architect. And this is part of the responsibility that often comes with free and open source tools that are amazing. But of course, there's always some value in managed tools because you just can outsource a lot of the work that you have to do. Anyways, that's my opinion about it. I'm not going to compare Wazuh to Sophos. I'm not going to do that. So, of course, I'm affiliated with this company and I'm not going to compare anything like this. I talked about this in the past. It's really the same like if I would compare an application or a product from a company that I'm working for with some other competitive product. This is not what I want to do. So I'm not saying like Wazuh is like the best tool in the market or anything like this. I see this more like a playground that you can dive into the world of security architects and play a security architect. I think Network Chuck has made a great summary with that in his video where he said like, use this tool to play a security architect. Use this to, experiment with it like you would do it in a company environment. So that's it about that. Do you think the HL15 is good to consolidate a HomeLab? I have no idea, honestly. I never really looked at those products because I never heard anything about like I think this is the HL15 is from 45 Drives, that new device. I know there are a lot of creators that do kind of product reviews these times because we had this in other live streams as well. If a company wants to have cheap market campaign, they're gonna use influencer marketing to go to some tech YouTubers and show them their fancy new stuff. I'm not part of that group, honestly, because I don't like to do those product reviews. I only do that whenever I buy something for myself or when I need something. Then I'm gonna make a video about it. But as you guys know, I'm not a big fan of those pre-built systems. I like to buy all the different parts and components like the rack server case, CPU, memory, and assemble it all myself. That's why I really like to do it on my own, and I don't have much experience with any products from 45 Drives. But anyway, I heard a lot of good things from other people, so yeah, maybe it's great, but I really don't know, honestly. I guess a few billion people on this planet would be happy to having or not having dark mode as their main problem. Yeah, probably. You're absolutely right. I mean, yeah, let's not get into this topic. That's going to make me upset about what is currently going on in the world. But let's stay focused on tech. This is the only thing that I can do to forget about any other stuff that is going on right now. So, Christoph, you probably know what I'm talking about. So let's not get into those details here. Let's take it offline at some point. Anti-user, I still like this name. Christian, are you able to recommend a tutorial to safely make services public via port forwarding and use reverse proxy? That's a good question. I mean, I've made some tutorials on those kind of topics. If you search for my traffic videos, if you search for Cloudflare or TwinGate videos, you probably find something good. Alright, so let's get into it. Just reading a bunch of other questions, I'm sorry. I'm trying to integrate Wazuh with K3s cluster to check for any malware or patches. That's, by the way, a question I might have for you, man, if you're working on this, because I tried to install Wazuh agent on my Kubernetes cluster, which is running on Raspberry Pi, so it's running the ARM chip. And I didn't find an installation script for ARM. So I'm really wondering, how exactly do you set this up on ARM? If you can point me to a tutorial, that would be great, because yeah, I'm gonna check it out. And of course, the main problem will be that the Wazuh agent, I don't know if it has visibility into the Kubernetes containers, because I mean they support Docker as part of their cloud security, but I don't know if they have the engine to have visibility in the container D processes or the container runtime processes that K3s uses. I have no idea, because they switched from Docker to something else. So I don't know if Wazuh has visibility into those Kubernetes containers. And I have no idea. So I probably need to check out. But yeah. I will hopefully find out. So what I can definitely tell for any future follow-up videos, what I'm going to do is next. So in the video, we mainly touched on configuration assessment. So which is, in my opinion, and this is still my opinion, that this part of the application is probably the most usable feature for HomeLab people, right? Because anything about the vulnerability detection and stuff, virus total, you probably never touch as a HomeLab guy. So you might touch it as a security analyst and stuff. But as a HomeLab user, you probably don't go and install an anti-malware somewhere or scan files through virus total. I've never seen any HomeLab guy that does that. I mean, probably if you are in cybersecurity, right? But I mean, the regular HomeLab guy that just wants to self-host a bunch of apps, run some Docker containers, I don't think they are doing anything like this, right? I bet like 99% of HomeLab people never touched on ClamAV, right? So therefore, I think that configuration assessment is probably the most valuable section in this application for HomeLab people, because this will teach you a lot about secure best practices and configuration. Just like the name suggests, configuration assessment. So this is going to make sure that you configure your servers appropriately to the CIS benchmark list, which some items might be more interesting than others. I said it in my tutorial. So since I made this video, I didn't go through the items, but this is definitely one of the next tasks that I want to go through, is go through these configuration settings and try to find out so which ones are, in my opinion, you always have to take this with caution, right? So anybody else might tell you something different. But what I personally think are the most important items to take a look at, because I don't know if you can see it. Probably I need to move my camera away, but you can see there are 19 pages of items. 107 configuration items have been failed on my production Linux server, which seems pretty bad. But honestly, I mean, there are a couple of things that I probably might take a look at, but not everything is critical, right? But there are 11 pages that I will have to take a look at, and I will go through this and probably make a follow-up video on so what are the best practices that I can recommend for secure configuration, right? So I probably need some time going through this. Really been hey Christian, I saw you were streaming and I just wanted to pop on to thank you for your videos. Thank you so much for watching. I've been really enjoying the Terraform Packer and other videos just looking at Wazuh today. Oh, amazing. Yeah, so perfect. Yeah, perfect timing for jumping into the live stream then. From the GitHub project page, the Wazuh agent has native integration with the Docker engine, allowing users to monitor image volumes, network settings, and running containers. Yes, this is right. I think this was one part of the video that you needed to enable this, because by default, the Wazuh agent is not listening on those container events. So here in the cloud security section, you can see that I think if I enable this on some other agent, I enabled this listener in the configuration of the Wazuh agent. So now it looks at those events. But honestly, I didn't really pay much attention to whether those are valuable or not, because you see a lot of noise in here as well, as usually with all of the other telemetry in Wazuh. There's so much noise in here, and you probably need some experience to interpret those events, because if you see something like this here, oh, okay, there are so many rules and oh, there's something going on, but you don't really know what is actually happening, you have to go into those events and find out whether it's something harmful or if it's something completely uninteresting, right? The same is also true for any other events, like, for example, if you take a look at, where is it? Yeah, let's check on malware detection, for example. I have a lot of noise in those log entries here telling me that there were some anomaly detection events from the root check module. So this is kind of like the engine that tries to detect rootkits. But you can see there is so much noise in here coming from those type of events that tell me a file is owned by root and has written permissions to anyone. And if you go into this section, you see this is coming always, and this is in 99% of those events the case. It comes from the var lib docker overlay section. So this is, I mean, this is like because the Docker engine is running as root. So you would expect that those files are owned by the root process. And it's not a harmful thing, right? If you're looking at those entries, you probably are alarmed at first and saying, oh my god, I've got a rootkit or malware installed or something like this. But if you take a closer look and you see those events are always happening, even on clean and fresh installed machines, there's a little chance that there's something harmful going on. And if you go into more details, you probably find out, okay, it's this type of event. If you search on GitHub for those messages, you always find like people putting this into the exclusion list or something like that. So there is a lot of noise in this system, and it is really not always easy to differentiate between harmful things or things that have a bigger impact or a harmful impact and other things that are completely benign. So this is, yeah, and that's probably like, with any security tool, right? But it's interesting to go through these type of events. I think you can learn a lot from just looking at those and trying to research what exactly is going on here. So is there anything bad happening, or is it just like the normal noise that you might get from collecting all sorts of telemetry from those endpoints? Yes, yeah, exactly, Christoph. Yeah, and there's a lot of those type of events in the application. I think like one guy commented when I was going into the vulnerability section and showing this stuff here. He was saying like, oh my god, right? Look at all those vulnerabilities I've got on my devices, right? And yeah, I first was a bit like worried if that is what's going on here, right? Am I infected by malware or something like this, right? But you have to always think carefully about this and review those items. For example, what I wanted to include in the video, but I thought it's gonna go a bit like too much into detail, so that's why I thought it would be useful to cover those things in a live stream, right? Where I can show you a bit around those different vulnerabilities and what I've researched. Because I never looked at all those 200 items, so I mean, that probably would take like 1 or 2 weeks for me to research all of those items. But this critical severity item I definitely took a closer look at. So this was really, I thought, what is going on here? So this is a CVE that was detected on my server production 7, which is my IoT server. So this is the small Zima board that has Home Assistant installed and so on. And that was about a critical severity item that usually doesn't happen a lot, right? So you can see if you go into those vulnerabilities, you see a lot of high severity events, which should also be a bit worrying. But also like medium and low events you see from time to time, and they don't really matter that much. Not always. Sometimes they can, but not in each case, right? But critical severity items, there are usually just a few items that get a critical severity rating somewhere, and those are usually pretty bad things that could happen. So I definitely checked this one out on the NVD NIST.government page. So this is usually if you're researching like CVEs or security things, you're probably gonna look this up on that database. And this kind of event, so this comes the IP package before 1.19 for Node.js might allow server-side request forgery because some IP addresses such as blah 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 are improperly categorized as global routable via is public. So I'm not a Node.js developer. I have no idea about JavaScript, so please don't ask me any questions about that. But it seems like there is a problem with this IP package in Node.js. So Node.js it's kind of similar to Python, right? I think you install some packages that add some functionalities and libraries to what you can do in your scripts or what you can use in your code. And that version package before 1.19, I would assume there is already a fix out there somewhere. So you probably just have to upgrade this IP package. So maybe that's going to do the job, right? And you just need to go in here and check it out. So what is really interesting, and I think this is always like part of the problem, is that this national vulnerability database, this is from the national vulnerability from the NVD NIST, National Institute of Standard and Technology, if I'm correct. Those type of CVEs, so they just publish a huge database of all CVEs that are published somewhere, and they usually give it a rating, such as a base score, right? So you see, this is pretty high. This is almost 10, rated as critical, so pretty bad, right? And this is usually always the case when there's something like an SSRF or something like a remote code execution would also get such a high rating. So those type of things where an attacker could get access from public to internal stuff, maybe even without privileges, this would always be a pretty bad thing, right? But if you look this up, because I'm running this on an Ubuntu server, for example, right? And if you search for Ubuntu CVE, blah, 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 you also find something about the CVE from Canonical, because they also publish patches for this. What is kind of interesting is that they set the priority to medium, which is also kind of like, I was first, what the hell is going on? So this is a critical CVE. Why the heck do they set the priority to medium, right? So what is going on? And then if you read further, you can see why this has been changed. Let's go in here. You also see the status, because this is already patched in some versions. However, and this is the stuff where I learned something about canonical and security on Ubuntu, right? If you look on those Node IP packages, you see the release for Bionic. You see it for Jamie. So this is the version that I'm using on this server. So this is the 2204 LTS release. So it's a long-term release, the Jamie release. There's also a new Ubuntu version existing, which is the Focal. So this is 24. And as you can see, there is a patch released, but the important thing comes here. You see this ESM1. What the heck is ESM1? And there is another section that says available with Ubuntu Pro. If you search for Ubuntu Pro, I don't know if you've noticed, but they recently rolled out this Ubuntu Pro that you have to pay for a license. Always remember, it is always free for personal use. So I could upgrade my server to Ubuntu Pro, because as a personal user, I'm not a company, so I can get it, I think, for... You get it for, I think, like 10 devices or something like that, or 5. So it is a bit limited, right? But you get like 10 devices or so that are free. If you go to pricing, you can see the plans here. So you got some self-support, server with unlimited VMs, so it's $500 per year. So that's kind of... okay, so what's going on? Jacob Bow likes to sell me Ubuntu Pro. Yeah, no, let's let's minimize this guy. Anyways, yeah, so you can buy this per machine with unlimited VMs for $500, and then you get Ubuntu Pro. Or what you can also do is you just say, hey, I'm a personal user. I register it Canonical, and you get this type of personal user thing where they even don't show it here. So they really want to push you to the paid plans. But here they said it is always free for personal use. Maybe Jacob Bow can explain to us what the heck is now going on. But anyways, yeah. So here you can get this. And this means like your server can get access to the... what is it called? It is called the Extended Security Maintenance Plan of Ubuntu. So, I mean, it's Ubuntu Extended Security Maintenance. So, expanded security maintenance. I'm sorry. So this is what you have to pay for in a company, but you get 10 years of security coverage for your Ubuntu machine. Oh, that's great. And you get those ESM patches, enable continuous vulnerability management for critical, high, and medium CVEs. So that means when you pay Canonical some money, you get this patched on your device, and you can ignore this. But if you don't have this, yeah, it's I don't know, right? It's not gonna get patched, which is kind of, this is really crazy, but this is probably how it works in the business, right? So, yeah, what you could do is, and this is also the next part that we need to get into. You can see you can learn a lot from just a single CVE that you try to get your head around and try to understand what's going on. So maybe this is gonna get somehow patched in Node.js. I mean, what you could do is probably if you can manually update the IP package, but if it's part of an application that requires the Node IP package in that specific version, you probably have no chance, right? But yeah, so that depends probably on the application or the dependencies you have on your server. However, you also need to make sure that this is Node.js. This is a web application. SSRF is web server security problem. And it also says very specifically it might allow SSRF. That does not mean that if your server has this CVE, anyone can hack your machine. That's not the case. So it is only vulnerable in specific conditions, right? So you can see it's improperly categorized as global routable via is public. So this is only if the application uses those specific functions from the Node IP package that might introduce this problem. So it does not matter. It does not mean that your server is vulnerable or somebody can hack into your machine or something like this. Only maybe you got a problem if you are using an application that is using Node.js and the Node IP package in Node.js, and you expose it to the public internet or something like this, completely unprotected with anything else in between. So then you might have a problem. But as you can see, it is very specific, and you always have to review those items, even if they show up as critical here. The critical severity rating doesn't come from the overall rating from Ubuntu. It comes from the base score it got publicly. So this is very, very specific. And that's why you should never panic just because there are a bunch of items showing up here, right? So even those 209 high severity issues, I could go through all of those things, review them. As you can see, most of those items are because of the Python 3.10 minimal package, right? The problem in Ubuntu, as always, I probably would have to update to the latest Ubuntu version. I would have to update my Python packages and stuff. This is not always the case in the LTS releases. Again, maybe there are patches existing in the ESM plan of Ubuntu, but I don't know. So technically, you have to go through all of those things and find out whether you're gonna be affected by it or whether you care about those items. Some might be critical, some others might not be critical, but you should definitely not panic just because you see a bunch of numbers popping up here, right? So I'm not really, I don't have a problem to show this to you because my servers are behind my firewall and they're not exposed to the public internet in any way. So I don't really care, right? Even if this would be a critical vulnerability that someone could easily exploit, my servers are not accessible on the public internet, so it's not such a big deal for me, right? But as you can see, you can learn a lot from those researchings. You can go through all of those items, open up those CVEs, read the documentation, read what the vendor of the distribution that you're using this on is saying about this CVE, because this might be completely different for Ubuntu than it might be for another Linux distro. I mean, most things in Linux are fairly standardized, but for the application-specific or distro-specific packages, this might be completely different, right? So even if this CVE got a high rating here, it might be the case that another distro already has a fix or patch out for this, right? While another one doesn't have it. So always check not just the general CVEs, but also from the vendor of the application or the distribution that you're using. Yeah, but it's kind of an interesting case, so you can really learn a lot, especially about Ubuntu pricing and about Ubuntu Pro. Why the heck should anyone buy this? I know I remember when Ubuntu Pro was announced, like the Linux community went crazy and, oh no, you have to pay for blah blah blah, and it's bad for open source and blah blah blah. Yeah, look, somebody has to write fixes for those security vulnerabilities. There have to be developers paid somewhere in a company that develop patches for those things, and of course they're gonna sell it to the enterprise. So what the heck are you expecting, right? But yeah, so here you can see this is actually a good example of why a company might consider buying those subscriptions, right? While HomeLab people probably don't care, but in company environments, you don't want to see a critical severity item here. So maybe your boss is gonna ask you about, so what the heck is going on? So can our machines be compromised or whatsoever? So that's, yeah, why those things exist. Pretty interesting. Yeah, it can teach you a lot about how that's going on. And this is why I personally love Wazuh so much. Not because it's gonna protect myself here from security vulnerabilities and stuff. So that's not really the most valuable thing for me. For me, it is the most valuable thing to learn about this and see, oh, there's something suspicious. So I might just gonna go on a journey and try to research what the heck is going on. So when was this first discovered, how the canonical company reacted to this, and so on. It's also interesting to learn. So this was published like on February. So when was this published? It was published first on February 8th. So one day after that, the canonical patched it. It's also kind of pretty fast. However, I'm wondering, so didn't they know before? So did they really have to react in a day to fix it? Who knows, yeah. But that's also something that I'm gonna take a closer look at. All right, so yeah, that's right. So of course, it doesn't mean that if you buy Ubuntu Pro, they provide security patches for all this stuff. Yeah, of course. Yeah, they do it for the most critical and the most important things. Also, they say it here in the expanded stuff. So they do it for the critical, high, and medium CVEs. So you're not gonna get patches from Ubuntu ESM for low CVEs, which kind of makes sense, right? Because if they get a low severity, they might not be so important. Ubuntu is trying to be another Red Hat. Yeah, I mean, this is the whole reason why Ubuntu exists, right? So, sure, they tried to do it. That was the whole reason why Canonical created it. So, is Wazuh really useful for your HomeLab? So yeah, it's kind of like what I just told you before, right? So I don't see this as a tool that helps protecting my servers. It is more a learning platform for me, like a real world learning platform. We can talk about integration as well. So I honestly know I'm entering a terrain that I haven't really researched before, but it is kind of interesting, and those are the things that I will take a look at the next time, right? All right, Christoph, is this critical actually about the operating system, or was it found in some container image layer? That's a good question. I think this is on the operating system, so this should be the Node IP package installed on the host OS, because I don't know if it could look inside the container image. It's, by the way, another interesting thing, right? Yeah, I don't know how these vulnerability detections, how to do that for container images. Does Wazuh have something like that? I don't know. I will have to take a look at it. I have not seen this anywhere here. Doesn't say it in the path. Yeah, let's take a look. Honestly, I don't know. Let's check. Let's check. So we can open this this type of event here. I think I can just go to inventory, the IP package before node. Inspect vulnerability details. So here you can see the details of it. Vulnerability reference, CVSS. I don't know if you can see anything in here. Here you can see type.deb. I suppose if we go and open a connection to this server, I think that is what I've done before. I've checked if this if the package is listed here. Yeah, that's what I've tried to do before, right? So you can see here it is. I think it is this package here, right? Or no, it should be, it is this here. 1.1.5, and in the CVE you can see that it is 1.1.9. So you probably should have to check if it is upgradable and search for it here in this list if you can get an update for it. But as you can see, because this server is not part of the ESM, you won't get this patch, and Ubuntu doesn't seem to have a newer version than this in their apt packages. Again, I'm not really an expert when it comes to Node.js, but yeah. So that's I'm not really the expert when it comes to that. Why is your terminal reversed? That's a pretty simple reason for it. Because when I'm doing tutorials and I'm typing in a lot of stuff in the terminal, in the YouTube player usually has its progress bar at the bottom. So if you have your command line prompt at the bottom, the YouTube player would always be on top of the command. And people said in some of the older videos they can't read what I'm typing in the terminal because the YouTube player controls are in the way. So that's why I found this reversed thing so incredibly amazing for making YouTube content. But yeah, this is really a very personal feature that you as a content creator you enjoy, but others might be a bit confused by this. But I think it's really practical for those videos. All right, so yeah, that's it about this particular CVE. So honestly, I don't think there's anything I could do about this right now other than pay for Ubuntu Pro to fix this machine or uninstall the Node IP package. I don't really know what is the dependencies of what application requires this, because I even don't know. So what I usually deploy each and everything in a container, so I don't really know. So what application on the host OS requires this? Maybe it is NetBird or something like this. I don't know. So I would probably have to research the applications on my system and whether I could uninstall this or if it breaks anything. But yeah, then that's the only way to fix this, which is a bit stupid, yeah, but yeah, it is what it is. Sometimes there are no patches really existing, or you cannot do anything about it. Okay, so I'm learning Wazuh for so long. Anyone can point me to a good training video. Yeah, you can watch my video, man. It's probably not gonna go through all of this stuff, but hey, it's a start. The next thing, yeah, let's go to follow-ups. So the next thing that I'm gonna review in Wazuh, so is the configuration assessment, right? So that's the first thing. Once I finish with that, I will take a look at malware detection and virus total. So this is probably the most useful thing for me. So malware detection, I will probably try to get ClamAV working in Wazuh and see how it works. And of course, because ClamAV, I don't really know how good it is. I actually never use it on any of my systems. but I will probably try to get it up and running. And VirusTotal, I will probably try to integrate into that somehow, so that whenever a file is scanned, but yeah, it is suspicious, but it's no specific detection, you could look up the file on VirusTotal to scan it. I don't really know how Wazuh integrates into VirusTotal. I think, like they says, they alert results from VirusTotal analysis of suspicious files via an integration with their API. So what you probably need is a VirusTotal API token. You get one for free, but VirusTotal API tokens have some limitations for free usage. So because I work in a company that has an unlimited VirusTotal account, I could use the company's account, but I'm not going to do that. So I probably just do it for some researching on VirusTotal. But this is kind of interesting. So I don't know if you know VirusTotal. This should be fairly common in cybersecurity business, but there you can just look up any file hash to see whether this file has been detected by any anti-malware stuff. This is pretty useful to get additional information about files that are not detected by your traditional malware scanner. So they have a huge database about any file hash. So for example, if you enter any IP address, domain, or file hash in here, you can see or get details about this. And they also got an API so that you can integrate it into Wazuh. And whenever there's something suspicious happening, they can query VirusTotal if they have some detections. This is also something I'm currently doing a lot with at work, because I'm researching a bunch of new malware. For example, if there's something that is not detected, or some pretty new detections that just popped up on VirusTotal that were detected by a couple of engines, but not by the vast majority of engines. I'm just going to check if we detected it somehow. I put it in a sandbox to see whether this file is doing some malicious stuff. It would be really amazing to integrate it in Wazuh, but the question I have is where or what exactly is scanned in VirusTotal? I don't really know. So to properly detect malware with the Wazuh agent, you would have to integrate it with an endpoint, right? So you have to go into malware detection, ClamAV, and integrate that somehow. So let's go into here. No, that's not what I was looking for here. So malware detection, ClamAV logs collection. Okay, so Wazuh detects malicious files through integration with ClamAV, a free and open source anti-malware engine for detecting various types of malware, including viruses and trojans. Offers real-time protection for Linux endpoints. So this is just for ClamAV. So the question is how Wazuh integrates into that. So you can configure ClamAV and collect its logs from Linux and Windows endpoints. To collect ClamAV logs from Linux endpoints, remove the comments here. Okay. So yeah, this is definitely something that I want to take a look at, because technically how it works is if you deploy the anti-malware engine, it will do some form of real-time protection. So when for example, you're downloading a file on your server, ClamAV is gonna scan it, and if it detects a virus, it will block it and report it, and it will write an entry in the logs. And the Wazuh agent sends all those logs to the Wazuh platform, and then you can see in the dashboard of Wazuh, there was a virus detected on one of your machines, right? But this is not happening without ClamAV. Yeah, Wazuh doesn't deploy an anti-malware solution like ClamAV automatically. You have to do it yourself. You can just enable the integration and send the logs through that. And let's also check, so how is the VirusTotal integration happening? So Wazuh detects malicious files through an integration with VirusTotal. Combining this, a powerful platform aggregating multiple antivirus products and an online scanning engine. Combining this tool with our FIM module provides an effective way of inspecting monitored files and malicious content. Aha, okay, so you probably also have to write some rules that to define what exactly is being monitored, because of course you cannot just send all the file hashes of all the file systems, of all the files in the file system of your server to VirusTotal. That would just kill your API token limits. So, yeah. I think those two things are probably for me the most interesting stuff that I want to take a look at next. I don't know if any of you guys have some experience with it, so then it would be nice to send me a message on Discord, and we might just share some experience. That would be nice. But those other two things, plus the configuration assessment, that I will take a closer look at. But you can also see, like, okay, so Wazuh, you cannot just install it and then you're protected, right? So you have to integrate it with other tools to be effectively blocking malware. Otherwise, you can probably detect a couple of rootkits and stuff, but not the vast majority of anti-malware, or the vast majority of malware files. Yeah, Christoph, I remember those type of things. Honestly, the Fnodify framework is kind of, I know this is kind of a complete mess, right? This is something, again, I haven't used ClamAV, right? I just know how it works with the Sophos endpoint on Linux, and I know we used the Fnodify framework in the past and then somehow switched it because of some problems it had, especially with container images and stuff. So to look into container file system processes, I think this was one of the most critical things that we needed to patch somehow and get our own system up and running. I know that ClamAV has some limitations here and there, but I've no experience with how it works. So, but you can see it here. They say it offers a real-time protection for Linux endpoints. I think the biggest problem is when it runs in a container, but I'm not really sure about that. So this could be completely wrong. So I first have to take a look at this. But I mean, yeah, it uses a command line scanner. This is probably not so useful because, I mean, this would you have to implement in your application or something like that. And also the standard rule sets of signatures of ClamAV are pretty weak, but you can integrate third-party signature databases. Yeah, sure. This is not really, well, I don't see this as like a strong protection, right? I mean, this is also, it's actually the same with Ubuntu Pro, right? So to get really the best coverage when it comes to malware and brand new threat types, you don't use the free and open source software, right? You buy a license, you buy good security products that does all that researching for you, right? So this is why you would want to buy CrowdStrike or Sophos or Sentinel-1 or something like this, right? Of course, there has to be some value in those paid products, otherwise everybody would just use ClamAV and call it a day, right? But of course, that is not really the case. The same is also true for any of those Snort rule sets, right? There's also like paid rule sets for those patterns that are much better than the free and open source rule sets. That's always the case. But for me personally, it would be a success if I could install ClamAV, download an iCar file, and it detects something and it shows up in Wazuh. This would be a success for me personally, right? And then the next thing that I would test is just download some file hashes from VirusTotal and just upload it to my server and see what happens. Hopefully, this is gonna get detected, right? Maybe I don't know if I should execute some of those malware, but hey, I can try in a sandbox and see how it works. But yeah, this would be the test, right? So if it detects an iCar file, this would be, like, for me, a great success because I know, oh, there's something, this is not working. Because, I mean, yeah, sure, iCar is detected by any anti-malware, right? So this is not like you don't have to do anything. And then the next step would be to find out how to improve the detection with rule sets and stuff. This is beyond what I'm capable to do right now. But hey, everybody needs to start somewhere, so I think this is going to be good. Also, for me personally, the question would be like, do I really want to move with this channel in the cybersecurity type of content. I mean, if I do stuff like that, you have to think about, so what is the goal of the video on this channel? Because honestly, those type of things probably are not so interesting for like the vast majority of HomeLab people. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe it is interesting, but that would mean that the channel focus would shift a lot more to security and leave a bit this, HomeLab self-hosting type of content. But also, maybe this is a good idea. I don't really know. Maybe this would be a nice idea to differentiate myself from those other channels that show you how to install, I don't know, Nextcloud, or that show you how to install, what is this other application called? I don't know, Nginx Proxy Manager. So maybe I could differentiate my content and move a bit more to the advanced cybersecurity blue team type of content channel. I don't know, because there's a lot of YouTube content out there. I also said it like multiple times ago that there is a lot red team content on YouTube because everybody wants to be a hacker, everybody wants to be cool and break into systems and stuff. But honestly, I think this is like such a small fraction of what is actually valuable in the IT business, right? Because if you make content about red team content, you're probably just targeting the penetration testing space. And there's a lot of great content out there that I would never be able to compete with, right? But I think there's not so much great blue team content out there because everybody wants to be a hacker and on this aggressive side of thing. But I think for the vast majority of people, they don't want to know how to break into systems themselves. They just want to know how to protect them, right? The protection part is probably targeted at most IT people, from like HomeLab type of people up to sys administrators, network administrators, even DevOps people. I think for me personally, this sounds much more interesting than the aggressive side of thing. But of course, you have to do some sort of researching about those topics. And the question is how far I will, or how far I'm able to go into that space. But I think from time to time, those type of videos would be nice. So again, the next video would be like the configuration assessment, best practice configuration for Linux. And then the next thing would be ClamAV, an integration into Wazuh. I think this would be just an amazing video. And it would help so many people to increase the protection and detection of their Linux systems even far better than any CrowdSec video that just blocks a bunch of malicious IP addresses that pop up randomly on the internet, right? I mean, because honestly, for me personally, and I don't want to say anything bad about CrowdSec, of course, it would also be a nice video to coverage, but I never really see like CrowdSec or fail to ban as protection applications, because I think there is a difference into just blocking anything that showed up somewhere randomly on a block list, but detecting something malicious from actually doing something bad. This is a different thing, right? I think there's much more to this, and it sounds to me more interesting to block actual malware instead of just blocking IP addresses that might do something bad, but might be completely harmless, right? So that's just my opinion about it, but I may be wrong. I don't know. Does good networking is enough to be safe from the virus? Yeah, ultimately, this would be the question to answer, right? So, but for me, this is never like the goal is never to achieve 100% security, right? This is not possible, but you can try to come as close as you can to that level. So this is the goal, right? To raise the bar, or to make it such a big challenge for somebody to break into your system that he's not gonna try it. Actually, it's kind of the same as you would protect your house. So if you want to protect your house from thieves, right? Somebody wants to break into your house and steal stuff. The goal is not to make your house like a fortress so that nobody can enter, because with enough time and enough effort, everybody can break into any house, right? You just need the time and the effort. And what is important, and that I've learned from my father, who used to be or he is retired as a police officer, right? And he told me that, right? So you have to make it as difficult as much so that the thieves, they just leave it. Okay, so it's gonna take 10 minutes for us to break into this house. Oh, okay, it's not worth it. We're gonna get caught, so we move into an easier victim, right? This is exactly the same like you do it in cybersecurity, right? So you probably don't wanna open any ports and make it so obvious for somebody to break into your system, right? For example, install an outdated OpenSSH server and expose port 22 on the public internet. So you're probably not going to do this. But to make it as hard as you can so that an attacker would have to invest a lot of time into breaking into your system, this is going to be the best protection, because then they move on to a weaker target. Obviously, if this is a targeted attack, that might be a bit different. But this is, in my opinion, like the essence of what you should be, or what should be your goal in IT, right? So yeah, it's yeah, that's the idea for future content. And by the way, I can also tell you, because I've just made up my mind about how I'm gonna approach this thing, right? Because if I'm gonna create content for Wazuh, oh my god, it's gonna be a lot of work. Because I'm not happy with just a single video that shows you how to install it. You know me, right? So I want to know everything about it. I wanna go a bit beyond that regular beginner tutorial content. You know this, right? So I know this is gonna take a lot of time. But I really thought the best idea would be to create some sort of IT HomeLab stack. Some sort, like a stack of applications or technologies that I cover on my channel. Like Proxmox, Ubuntu, maybe a good firewall system, a good storage system. I've not really finally decided on this, but for example, a good automation system, maybe Kestra. Kestra could be my preferred automation tool. Ansible, Terraform, those type of applications or technologies that I mainly want to focus on. And the others, well, I'm not gonna do a video on each and every VPN tool, right? I'm not gonna do this anymore, right? Because then I would cover like 10, 20 different programs. And at the end, nobody would know what to use. So better focus on 1 or 2 different programs. Maybe compare like 1 or 2 or maybe 3 at maximum. Show you my opinion, what I think is best. Yeah, for example, yeah, Semaphore and Kestra. Yeah, so those are good examples. So I'm gonna focus on Semaphore and Kestra. I could also explore Rundeck. I could also explore, I don't know, Ansible Tower, right? And maybe there are also other automation tools. For example, there's a thing that N8O or something like this. But why? Does it actually help to cover another tool every week? Or does it actually help more to focus on just a few tools that I believe are the best in that space and make more videos on those? I think this is a better approach, but we will see. And Wazuh is definitely a tool that I would put into this stack. So it's another of those Semaphores, Kestras, and Proxmox, right? So it will become like my primary security tool that I'm gonna use and make tutorials for. So that's what I'm saying. Hope this makes sense. But yeah, that's how I'm currently thinking about it. By the way, we did once a live stream about the CrowdStrike thing. So if you want to watch it, there's still the recording on YouTube, so you can check it out. Yeah, that was also kind of a funny thing. All right. Okay, guys, I know I didn't make it much a Q&A, to be honest, because I mainly just talked about what is going on here and what are my findings. But I hope it was interesting and it gave you some more additional insight into the Wazuh project and how I'm gonna work with this and what are my future plans. So hopefully, yeah, hopefully you find that somehow useful. Okay, guys, so I'm gonna quit for today. Not completely, but for today. and let you guys enjoy the rest of your day. I hope it was helpful, and let's catch up in 2 weeks again for the next live stream episode, and hopefully I'm able to finish my next video for Tuesday or Wednesday. This is gonna be such an amazing video. I hope you enjoy it, and then let's catch up in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to join the Patreon page and support my channel. And then I say bye-bye. Take care.